I'm going without live video. I hope you don't mind. It conserves my bandwidth so I can open all these tabs.
Hello.
Otherwise, GoTo crashes. So you'll be talking to my smiling portrait instead of my moving mouth. Okay, so we want to take a look at week 1, shooting assignment 1.3. Digital cinematography. This is project 1 from last week, and let's see. Oh gosh, wait a minute. That's not what I wanted. We know what that is. Actually, here's what I can do. Let me open up the worksheet. Do I want to do that online? Let me think about this. Probably not. What I probably should do is open it this way, so I conserve my bandwidth. This is week 1 assignment worksheet V6. Is that right? Oh, language of the lens. No, that's not right. Oh, I'm in the wrong class.
I was just about to ask.
What? Yeah, let's see here. Okay, we want the.
I was imagine how you go through it.
Oh man, I got so many things going on. Okay, worksheet A. Let's do the. Let's do the PDF. That'll be good enough. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to fill this in, but maybe you can follow along on your end. All right, so the idea behind the project 1.3 was to get you in the habit of swapping out the variables on your exposure. So let me ask you something. When you're photographing, are you more concerned with your shooting f-stop, or do you consult with the LCD on the back of the camera to verify what your lighting is doing?
My f-stop.
Okay.
I shoot in raw format, so definitely my f-stop.
Okay. All right. So you don't have any lookup tables on your LCD. Okay. All right. Well, then, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I think what it is a couple of times I think you were a victim of the frame rate. Maybe you didn't realize that the frame rate had changed over here all the way to the right. But this is for the sake of the assignment. This is your baseline exposure. Okay. So you need to assume that this exposure is an 18% gray or a normal exposure, okay? And these were the settings that you had at the time for this shot, this baseline shot. And then we're going to mix up some of the variables. So in the example, we changed your ISO from 1600 and we changed, I think that's it. So in the boxes you would fill in, okay, I'm either going to change my neutral density pack or I'm going to change my f-stop to accommodate this new ISO. So in the example, we kept our ND filter pack the same at 1/16 the ISO, and we just changed the f-stop to 5.6. Okay, because when we increased the ISO over here to 1600, we in effect made the camera more sensitive, which means that at 1600, if we don't change our f-stop, we're going to be what? One stop overexposed, right? So we had to close down on the lens to a 5.6 to accommodate the new ISO. So on line 2, this is your first challenge. So you got two boxes, two variables that you can manipulate, and right off the bat you can see we've changed our ISO again and we've changed our frame rate. So our frame rate is 12 frames per second now. That's like increasing your ISO. If you slow down your frame rate, that means your effective shutter speeds will, well, your shutter angle will change. And if not, you will be overexposed by shooting at 12 frames instead of 24. And 12 is half of 24, so that's one stop overexposed. And then 3200 is two jumps from 800, so that's two more stops overexposed. So we have to take the, in essence, take the correction over here. Now we can do it all on the f-stop, and we could keep the NDs the same and put 1/16 in here, and then just make up 3 f-stops over here. So we're 1, 2, 3 stops bright. So we got to close down from a 4, 1, 2, 3 times, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11. So we could keep the filters the same at 1/16 the ISO. We could stop down to an 11, and then all this would be balanced to our baseline. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think I put it up either. I don't, well, for one, I don't know if I was just and I apologize if I was just too weary. I did not factor in anything for the frame rate at all.
That's what I kind of thought. Yeah, because it changed here, 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 and that's pretty much, you got all those wrong because I think you probably weren't looking. I was going to send you a kind of a playfully snarky email and ask you if you did this on painkillers. Because I was surprised that you had missed so many. So if you go ahead.
No, and this is like no excuse. Like as I said yesterday, this is no excuse. But I mean, yesterday, a long time I actually when I had my treatment, it was so bad. It was the only mistake I made, doing my homework, but it was just, I promise I don't even know how I just do that.
Well,
and that's something simple like.
Well, that's what I thought, but I got to be honest with you. I've given this task to dozens of students at this point, and it's everybody's stumbling block for some reason or another. And I know that you're an older student, so you probably don't fall victim to this as much, but I blame the iPhone generation for not really understanding how exposure values and variables can change, because they're used to taking pictures with a device that does all that calculation for them. And the extent to that they're concerned about exposures is what they see in the viewfinder. If the viewfinder looks okay, then they don't consider that it's something that they can manipulate. But in your case, I was rather surprised, being a photographer, that you kind of bombed this one. So, but all of my assignments, you can you can take another crack at this if you want to. Any assignment that you turn into me, if you perform poorly, or if you have an epiphany and you want to take another crack at it, you're welcome to do that. So when you're clear-headed, take another shot at this, download another worksheet, give it another try, and send it in to me, and I'll adjust your grade.
I could definitely, like I said, that's what I was at. Because normally I would have been looked at it. I didn't have time to look at it and say, oh, I need to change this.
Yeah, I would say.
I promise you, Mr. Watts, I don't even realize. Like it's like it was just cut off. I didn't even think anything about it. Even when I got down.
Well, that's fine. I mean,
you look at like how I did that. I didn't. I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's fine. I mean, you've got your disability exception, so you actually turned this in ahead of time. You could have taken more time if you wanted to. So it's not a problem. I mean, even if it was just a simple matter of silly computational errors, like I said, any assignment that anyone turns into me, you're always welcome to take another shot at it. Just give it another try, resubmit it, and then what I do is I'll take a an average of the two grades, and I'll give you a new grade as a result of your second attempt. So it's my desire to have you learn the material and be successful with it more than recording your grade. So if you got to do something a couple of times, then I'm willing to accept resubmissions, and that's any assignment.
I think that's it.
Okay.
But that's something that, well, as far as our city is in a cakewalk, because even the seasoned of us photographers,
Oh yeah.
And like I said, I shoot in RAW, so it shouldn't be like it shouldn't be any why would that bad, you know what I mean?
Well,
like I just did that when my eyes closed or something.
Yeah, we all have bad days, but I mean, believe it or not, I mean, I can do this stuff rolling out of bed. I've been doing it my whole life, and yet when I was building this worksheet, I made a bunch of mistakes, and I had to go back and go, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. I got to change this, or I got to tweak that. I mean, it's when you're dealing with all these variables, it can get complex, and there are there's 12. Well, the first two are freebies, so there's 10 alternate solutions that you got to balance. Everything balances back to the baseline, and then you got like 5 questions at the end, that you've got to answer based on how you filled in the chart. So I mean, it's a lot to think about. So I'm not surprised that nobody. I've given this, like I said, to dozens of students by now, and nobody has aced this. Nobody. So you're in good company. I wouldn't worry about it. Was that? Did you look over anything else?
Say it one more time.
I was just asking if you had looked over anything else that I had graded and sent back.
That's when I saw that, I just I ain't gonna lie to you, my stomach balled up, and I just that made like just a bomb. You know what I mean? So I was like, that blew my mind. I was ready to give up.
No. It's not. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world.
I'm just playing with you.
Yeah, no, I know. You don't expect to see.
But, I was gonna ask you.
Uh-huh.
I ain't meaning to interrupt.
No, I think there's a little bit of a delay. I think that's what our problem is. Go ahead.
Yeah, listen, that's what I was saying. I probably should have did it. I apologize if I'm actually using one of my devices versus my laptop. It was just, I told you I was gonna make it, and it was right there. And I'm like, I'm trying to log in. I didn't think I'm not gonna show up.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna say maybe somebody else asked this too, but for me, now I do photography, but some just actually going full-fledged film. I would shoot some film with my actual LSR camera too as well, and at the same time, you still have to kind of get into your frame rate, but and I use full frame too, but it's just like this is kind of like a big. I ain't gonna say big, but it seemed like it's a little bit more complicated versus on the film side, and I would even have to do it my I gonna come in with a full glass and you can't absorb it in. If you get my drift.
Yeah, no, I get your drift, definitely. I mean, still photography is an excellent training ground for cinematography, but cinematography has added dimensions to it that are not part of the everyday photographer's experience. For instance, this whole column here that says shutter. I mean, if I really wanted to send you some zingers, I could have tweaked the shutters on this as well, because this is another adjustment that you can make with a digital cinema camera. But when you start dealing with all of those different variables at once, if you're not used to it, it can be very overwhelming. And these shutter, in essence, this is a shutter speed, 1/48th of a second. But this is an electronic shutter that is representative of what we call a shutter angle with a film camera, a motion picture film camera, where a rotating shutter opened at 45 degrees has the same relative shutter speed in the Sony digital camera of, let me think, um, it would be twice as fast as 90 degrees or 180 degrees. At 180 degree shutter, you're at 24 frames a second at a 48th of a second. So this would be a fraction of that exposure, and so that's why I gave you these shutter angle jump charts to look at as well. They're sort of Venn diagram looking representations of shutter angle, and you don't have that problem with a still camera. So, and frames per second, you know, you're shooting one frame at a time, or you know, maybe you got a motor drive and you're shooting what 10, 12 frames a second. But this is taking you all the way up to 96 frames. That's 2 stops darker than regular 24 frames per second sync speed. So it's a lot to think about. But that's the whole point of doing these drills. It's to get you thinking in this direction, and then practice, 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 so that you can make these computations really quickly and fill in a chart like this in a matter of minutes. So
yeah, and see, for me, like, you know, like I said, like I did, you know, I would, you know, wanted to know, like, okay, where I messed up at when I went back, and I actually looked at it again. I said, oh,
yeah,
man, like, it's the frame rate. I said, I'll be dog. I did in this the wall. Honestly, I don't know where my mind was, but it was not there. You know what I mean?
yep,
You know, because I'm quite sure, like, if probably frame rate, I wouldn't have been that off. You know what I'm saying? Like, just
yeah.
whew.
Yeah, no, I know, because like I said, when I was grading your paper, it was all, you know, plus and minus 1 or plus and minus 2 stops, and that's pretty much the range of frequency of change over here. So
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, yeah, if for one of them, like, say for instance, we were just talking, like, you know, where if I was factoring in the frame rate, then I probably would, like you said, I would have did, like, you know, F11.
yeah, yeah,
So if I didn't factor in the frame rate, like you said, it was at plus. I might have had plus or 2, but it's, you know, it still was off. And I promise you, like, I was in my head for, like, for me, I'm again, I have, that's what I'm gonna have to sit there and break, just to get my much of a second nature,
yeah,
like, from shooting the skills, that it, like, in my head, it just automatically practice up. Like, I'm doing shutter speed and L-stop, so it's like I'm thinking more like in the still photography side.
yeah. It helps you as well to
Extra dimension.
yeah. I know that a couple of times you've shot some of your projects with your DSLRs instead of using the Sony camera, and that you know, sometimes that can delay this process, because switching back and forth from platform to platform to platform, it doesn't create any intimacy. Now, I know you've had the Nikon DSLRs for quite a while, so those are probably second nature to you, but you know, maybe you need a little more time on the FS5 too, just so that when that tool gets put in your hand, you feel the same quick response to that device as you do to your Nikons. So maybe resist the temptation of shooting with the other stuff and stick with the FS5 for a while till you get really, really intimate with it in a good way.
Well, and that was the other thing. That was the other. It's like, you know, now that I'm kind of, you know, going through my little, I guess you can say, recovery, trying to get better.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want you to think, you know, how some people just talking and saying, well, help me do this, and then, you know,
That's fine.
just try to get some game as far as, like, with the arm to go on my chair.
Yep.
I'm dead serious, because I want that with my art, because, you know, I can pick it up, but it's not like, say for instance, my D4, it might be huge and big, but everything that's on my D4, I know how to, like, without even, and this might sound crazy, but without even, like, looking at it, where my hands, I'm so comfortable with it, I can, or like, I can press it while I'm say if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I can multitask set my my settings sometimes without even just. I mean, I have to finger, but what I'm saying is I'm right there in that vicinity. That's how comfortable I am with it.
Well, that's how we need you to be with the FS5 now.
I want to kind of push that away, put that up.
Yeah.
And that's but I was trying to explain, not trying to use that excuse, but I was just trying to tell you. That's why I was open with you. I would just have. The camera is not heavy. Like it's not about the camera. It was just I was so worried or weird about like say I'm moving in the chair, like if I got it on my lap or something, because at the time, like where my leg, I couldn't see like the cuts and how my leg was set up. So I was kind of scared if I had it on one side and just shatter everywhere. I guess I was overthinking it. How you try to be overprotective.
Yep.
And that's what I was going through. And now that when you gave me those recommendations as far one of them, like I said, with the Manfrotto arm, like I kind of had a setback because I was planning on putting everything together. Like I said, I was trying to get the money together and just order everything. Not necessarily do it overnight this week, so that when week 2 project come and on out, from here on out, I can kind of I'm situated and I got behind because this week right here, what threw me off was yesterday and today.
Well, don't sweat it.
It was just so bad, Professor Walsh. They put me back to back. Got any type of break in between, and it took a lot out.
Okay, well don't sweat it. Don't sweat it. Just take another crack at it, and because we got a lot of work this week now to move on to. So, hey Quentin, since we got you on the line here, did you since I've got this form up, did you have any questions or issues with the 1.3 assignment?
I did me to laugh on something. And into your conversation about the frame rate, and I automatically assumed that it was 24 all the way down.
Ah. So I caught you on that too, huh?
You caught me. You did catch me.
Well, like I was telling Willie, if you any of the assignments that I give, I allow folks to resubmit. I mean, there's a lot to do this month, but if you have time and you want to take another crack at this, feel free and turn it in to me. If you do that, both of you guys, since you've already submitted once, the LMS thinks that you're done and you've moved on from that assignment. So if you resubmit something for a second grade, just shoot me an email and let me know that it's back there, so I'll go back and look for a resubmission, okay? Because the LMS won't tell me. But you can take another crack at this and see how you do.
I definitely do that too.
Yeah, do it. Do it just for your own peace of mind. So, did you guys have any? Quentin, did you have any trouble with interpreting these jump charts? Because I had somebody complain to me that they didn't understand what they meant.
No, it was easy to interpret the jump charts. I mean, pretty much the aperture.
Okay.
You had the fade out, the background fading out. Like blurred out at the end, you gotta tell them the lenses closing. I mean, that was a no-brainer.
Okay, good.
The level of light, the higher density. I actually have a friend. We have a photographer who knew more about it than I knew about it already. So kind of went through it and kind of showed.
Oh, good. Okay, good. That's good. It's nice to have somebody that you can bounce some of this stuff off of. Okay, well let's.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah, it's something that you're not used to not used to thinking about. So we got to get you in, establish that habit. Shutter angle now and frame rate is going to be part of your everyday language. So we got to get you thinking about it. So let's talk a little bit. Well, we got a few minutes left here. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on in week 2. So week 1 was about exposure. Now week 2 we're going to talk about your lens. Okay, so we've got everything in your read and view is going to be relevant to the lens. And Willie, are these links working now? Did you try these links? Are they okay?
When I went back, yes, sir. It goes into the new.
Okay, good.
So it does work.
Yeah, that's a glitch in the system. I don't know why it did that, but that's each time I reload the class for the next month for the next group of students, that Safari goes back to the old links, and I got to redo them all. So I don't know what's going on. It's not on my end. There's some really.
I didn't know if you knew. That's why I wasn't trying to be a smart, but I was just trying to make you, aware of it.
No, that's good. That's good because sometimes I just assume that everything. If I don't have time to check it, I assume everything carried forward, and if you don't tell me, sometimes I won't figure it out until somebody's already had a problem, and then I get a bunch of frustrated emails, people going, "Hey, it doesn't work." So that's good. I appreciate it.
I rely on it because
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you know.
Okay, good. Please do. So I found these fun little videos. This is a nice little sort of illustration on depth of field and what we're striving for. The thing about depth of field with photography is it works the same way, but now what's happening is in photography you have 2 added axes of movement to think about. You've got the camera, which can be moving, and you have a subject which is moving because this is motion pictures. So your depth of field is going to play a more critical role with a motion picture film than it is with a still image, because if your subject is moving and that subject moves out of your zone of depth of field, you've either got to move the camera or you've got to change the focus to keep that subject inside of your depth of field. So this is talking about depth of field in terms of the zone of focus in and around your subject, and it's got these neat diagrams that you can look at. There's also a nice video. I like this guy a lot. This is Matt Granger. He's an Australian photographer. I think he's located in New York City now. And he's just talking about, he's talking about the difference between still lenses, like you might use on your Nikon, and cinema lenses like we can use on the Sony FS5. So just like your SLRs, your DSLRs, you can change lenses on the Sony FS5 and you can put on a whole variety of cinema glass that is a lot of fun to play with and fun to think about, conceptualize with when you're coming up with ideas for things to shoot. So that's kind of a fun little video. He just talks about the difference. And then we've got another quick video on the explanation of f-stop relevant to t-stop. So you got f-stops, which are a derivative of purely a mathematical formula, and that's the relationship to the diameter of your front reticle to the distance to your optical center of your lens and the opening, the size of the diaphragm created by your iris. All those features plug into a formula, and you end up with f-stops. T-stops are a little bit different, and so this video talks about that, and and Matt alludes to the difference between F's and T's, and then you get a little bit of it here in this video as well. So those are kind of fun to check out. And if you have any questions on those, we can address that in your go-tos, or send me an email or whatever, and I'll give you a quick rundown on what that is. We've also got your discussion post, armchair cinematographer. So that's pretty easy. Take a screen grab from. We got it. I think you got to pull another one out of your favorite film here. Let's see. Yeah, find an example. Yeah, from either a film or a television show or something. Find an example of a deep depth of field shot and a shallow depth of field shot. And we'll talk about the comparisons. We'll talk about how the shot was composed, what you think the aperture was, the f-stop, what you think the focal length was. And there are some examples here from the Social Network, which was shot by what's his name? Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, this is the Social Network, a David Lynch film, and we fill in. This is part of your worksheet. There's a worksheet for you to download, I think. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. So you're going to watch a clip from the Social Network, I guess, and then pick out some shots. So this is an example of a wide shot on a wider focal length, and this is an example of a recomped. It's still a long shot, but it's on a longer lens. You can tell by the compression. The background and the foreground appear to be closer to the edge of frame than they are here, and so you estimate what those settings might have been on the camera. Now, there's a neat link, and it's in the supplementary section of this week. It's a link to the depth of field simulator, which is online, and you just log in to check it out. This is a neat tool for you to play with if you're trying to figure out what your depth of field might look like. It's going to give us a virtual subject and some backgrounds that we can change. Hey, Willie, is that the TV behind you or something?
Hold on. I'm sorry. I might be. Was it me? Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. I just want to make sure you can hear me. So this is a great tool for you guys to play with. Depth of field simulator, it's called, and you can use this format to estimate. You know, when you pull your still images out of your pieces of film, you can use this tool to help you estimate. For instance, okay, here's our subject, right? So we've got all these things we can change. This is a basic format in imperial measurements. That's, you know, American nomenclature. We can have a woman at 5'7". We can have what else have we got here? We got a man at 6'3". We got a man at 5'11". We got a woman at 5'3". We got a girl and a boy. You know, young girl, young boy. I just go with the woman at 5'7" because why not? And then you can pick her background. This is the park. We've also got the city, and it'll change the background. Sometimes, oh, that's no good. We don't want that. City's no good. Let's go back to the park. We like the park. Yeah, here we go. And you can see what happens to your backgrounds. And so we're in landscape orientation. We can pick our sensor size. I have APS-C dialed in here, but we can go to, let's see, if we go all the way down to cinema cameras, I think the Sony, let's see. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Where did you find this?
This is at DFM202 There's a link. Let me show you. There's a link in additional topics. I think it's here.
Okay.
Let's see. Let me make sure. Each week I have an additional topics section, and I put little things like this in here for you guys. Here's a little video on cinema lenses. Let's see. Not in here? Hey. Okay. It's not in here. I'll have to look around and see where I stuffed it. But it's depth of field simulator.
I think.
You see this address right here? DOFsimulator.net. .net. Okay.
Okay, not that.
So where was I? Oh, so our sensor size. Okay, so let's see. We've got a whole bunch of stuff here. Let's see. I want... DSLR. I guess, yeah, APS-C is going to be APS-C Canon. That's going to be closest to the chip in your Sony camera. I thought I could pick the Sony camera for some reason. Yeah, because I have it down here. I got to figure out how I did that. Next, we can dial in our lens. Okay, so what do I want? Rokinon, Sony, 85mm lens. We can change the focal length by sliding this slider and see what it does to your field of view. And this is all relevant to the size of the chip that you've selected, right? So you can change your field of view. So what does it look like on a 50? That's about here. And the bokeh at a 1.4 looks about like so, but your lens only opens to a 4. So let's dial it up to a 4 and see what we got. All right, so if you wanted this background to really blow out and you know your minimum f-stop is a 4, you got to go to a longer lens to get that background to start fuzzing out. So you'd probably have to go to an 85 or longer to get the bokeh that you get at a 50 with a lens that opens wider. What's that?
That sounds about right. No, I was going to say that sounds about right because that's where I shoot it too. Like,
yeah. Let's see. Oh, the other factor that affects your bokeh back here is the distance from the camera to the subject. If we decrease the distance, we're going to increase the bokeh.
Gotcha.
Right? So then we can maybe go back to that 50mm lens because now she's only 5 feet from the camera. And
that's what I was going to say. That 4 to 5 feet.
Yeah, that's kind of the sweet spot. It's sharpening up because it's a smaller chip. But this helps you sort of envision that without, if you can't get your hands on your gear or for some reason, or you're on the, I don't know, you're on the bus or you're on an airplane or something and you don't have your stuff with you, but you just want to fiddle around. This is a great tool for just playing around and just experimenting. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you can save some of your settings too. That's kind of neat. These are my settings from the last time. I was going, what does a Sony chip at a 50mm 2.8 look like at 8 feet? Well, there it is on your zoom lens. Actually, 2.8 is wider than you got on your zoom, but
that'll come in handy.
Yeah,
that'll come in handy to make a lot, just to even study ahead of time to play around with the settings.
Yeah, definitely. Here's another way of looking at this problem too. Check this out. Here's another way of looking at this scenario. We've got this distance scale down here. We got our photographer and we got our model. We can move our model. We can put her, where was she in the beginning? At about 15 feet. We can push her back out to 15 feet. And that's what we're going to get on a 50mm at 2.8. Let's slide this over to a 4. And this, you see this grayed out area all around the model? Watch, as I change the f-stop, that's the zone of focus around the model. You can see it increase with your f-stops, how much you're going to have. If you want just a little bit, there's a wide open at a 1, which you can't achieve on your lens. But so at a 4, you got this much around your subject. 1/3 in front, 2/3 behind your subject. This is saying it's even, which is not true. But it's close. It's better than nothing. So we can move her. We can move her way out here. We can move her up close to camera. We had her at 5 feet a minute ago. There's your 5-foot mark. And, you can do it that way. It's kind of neat. I think it's fun to play with. So you can use that when you're preparing to, when you pull some frame. Let's say you use the social network, so you pull some frames out of that film, and you're trying to figure out what it might have been shot at. I think this is a great way to help you estimate that. So let me get back to week 2 over here. Okay, so that's the read and view, the discussion. We talked about the. Okay, so now we've got your shooting assignment for this week, and your shooting assignment is going to be, it's another worksheet, so I just warn you now. Here's your instructions, and here's your worksheets, okay? What you're going to be doing is you're going to be shooting a series of shots on a variety of lenses. You're going to record your results on your worksheet, and then there are some questions on the worksheet that I'm going to ask you relative to the shots that you took to talk about the observable effects of depth of field, for instance, on your backgrounds, on your foregrounds, on your subject in the zone of focus, and so forth. It's kind of a think piece. You shoot some stuff, and then you analyze what you shot, and then you reflect on your results and answer some basic questions. So I think it's pretty straightforward. It shouldn't give you nightmares like the exposure one did, but it is quite a few shots. I think it's like, let's see, close-up, medium, and long times 4. So I think it's at least a dozen shots that you have to do for this. So so give yourself ample time, and I would suggest doing it outside as well. Doing it inside is kind of, it can be limiting if you don't have a lot of space to work, and you won't get the kinds of results that you need to see that you would get shooting your subject outside. So I recommend doing it outside, definitely. I think that's all for week. So week 2 is pretty cut and dry. So do you have any questions on that at all, Quentin?
No, it's pretty much self-explanatory for this week. It's a little.
Yeah, I think
this week is a little easier. Yeah.
Seems like it. I don't want to. The first week's a little intense. I realize that, but you get the opportunity of working with all that with each new week as you're trying other stuff. So hopefully all of that will sink in. It just takes practice. And you can always shoot me an email, or we can schedule another go-to if you get stuck, or if you need a little extra tutorial on some of these things. So that's basically it. That's what I had for you guys. So I'm open for your questions. If you got any questions or responses to any of the week 2 work, I'm open to hearing your questions at this time.
I'll do. Mine was just what we previously was professional.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to try to, like you said, I'm limited with inside of the house, so I'm trying to get around. But that's why I kind of wanted to get the recommendation that you had to try to set my what you're up for the adaptation, so I can kind of.
Yeah. What we'll have to do is maybe we can do another go-to. Maybe I don't know, tomorrow or Thursday, and I'll pull out some magic arms, and we can. I can turn on my video. I'll do it in my office, and I'll show you the arms that I have. The one that I recommended for you from B&H. I don't have the FS5 with me today. I might get it back on Thursday. Maybe I can do a go-to with you on Friday or something, or Saturday. Uh-oh. Connection lost.
I want to try to, like I said, go on the outside and make it happen.
Yeah, if you can. I mean, it might be good. It might be a nice change of pace for you to get outside and get a little fresh air, and this isn't too hard. It's really, you can do this all from the same position, and you can just have your subject move. In your case, Willie. Although, if you have your, well, yeah, no, I think that would work. It's, yeah, you can move your subject closer to you and shoot on, you know, the wide angles, and then move your subject further back. The whole idea is to keep your subject the same size in the frame for each of the lens changes, so, or each of the framing changes. So you got a close-up. You know that you can shoot a close-up on a wide-angle lens, and you can shoot a close-up on a telephoto lens, but there's going to be a change in proximity, the subject to the camera. The same close-up on a wide angle, the subject's going to be pretty close to the camera, and then on the telephoto lens, the subject's going to be further away from the camera in order to keep her the same size in the frame. So that's the essence of this drill, is keep the subject the same size in the frame for all the close-ups on all the lenses, then all the mediums on all the lenses, and then the subject stays the same size on all the long shots as you change lenses. So that distance is going to be constantly changing.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you. Multiple lenses, I guess.
Uh-huh.
The only lens, but I do have a. I don't know if I'm allowed to use this. I do have a camera, and I have some lenses that I can actually use on my Sony with that E-mounted cap.
Oh, you don't have the kit zoom?
I have, let's see, I have, well, I have the, which lens is this? This is, I have the one that, the G-Pop, so I only have one lens.
Did it come with the camera and the kit and your tech package?
Yes, and this is the only one I have.
It
so
should.
Is that the only one we need to use?
Yeah, that's an 18 to 105 zoom, I believe. It should say on the near the lens mount on the barrel. Okay, yeah, you can just use that zoom lens, and then just you'll adjust the focal length on the zoom lens. And I've got a little. You see this chart right here? Let me get this out of the way. This is a little chart to help you convert your Sony Z values to focal length values for the worksheet. Because the Sony camera with the Sony lenses on the zoom lenses, it doesn't tell you what the equivalent focal length is for some reason. It uses what they call Z values, which is, I don't know why they do it. I hate it, but it's a Sony thing. But you can use this little scale right here to convert the Z number to a focal length. And the Z number will appear, I believe it appears in the upper left corner of your LCD. So like if you're on a Z25, that's equal to a 35 millimeter lens.
Right. They had us adjust that. They had us change it. Like this class, they actually had us to go ahead and adjust the camera to what we'll be using for this month, I guess.
Okay, good. Did you have a software upgrade or something that gives you focal length?
Right.
Okay, good. Good. Okay. Because the worksheet's asking for focal lengths, which are these numbers here. So these aren't Z values. These are equivalent focal lengths to standard prime lenses, for instance. If you were using fixed focal length lenses instead of a zoom. So these are more traditional focal lengths that we use in the film industry, and Z numbers are basically nothing. They're just a Sony thing. So so the worksheet will be in focal lengths. Yeah, I don't know why they do it. They just want to be different, I guess. So that's fine. They can do it. So that's it. So that's the week 2 project, and I think hopefully you'll find it mildly entertaining. It's not as hard. So take some nice pictures, though. Okay, I'm kind of losing my mind here, looking at stuffed animals in the bedroom, and oh my God, somebody somebody gave me not a lipstick container, it was a fingernail polish against a wall. And I said, how are you going to see changes in your background depth of field if you shot a bottle of nail polish against the wall? You got to get out there and you got to look for some photogenic subject matter, or
back to the iPhone generation.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. I'm getting you to think cinematically now. Think cinematically, but there's a really good reason for that. All humor aside, you're going to have in your future courses, you're going to have a couple of classes where you can repurpose content that you shot earlier in the curriculum and use it to, create new projects in some of your other classes. And one of those classes is a portfolio class at the end of your curriculum. And so you don't want to have a body of work that consists of shots of your dog, shots of a stuffed animal in your bedroom, shots of the lamp in the living room, for all of your assignments. You want to have some nice looking content that you can put on a reel and use, to show clients when you start going out looking for work. So use these assignments as an opportunity to create portfolio worthy content. Okay. Kids are lovely. We all love them. They're beautiful. They're cute. But don't shoot your kids every time you have an assignment. Otherwise, you're going to have a portfolio full of home movies, and the client that is looking for a cinematographer to shoot the next Dodge Charger commercial is not looking for a guy who's good at shooting kids. He's looking at a guy who's good at shooting cars or shiny subjects. So give yourself the opportunity to find some good-looking content and shoot that. It'll also inspire you. It'll get your creative juices going if you've got something really hot to look at. A really beautiful shot of the scenery, or a model, or a hot car, or a frosty can of beer or something. Just whatever. That's my thing. Food photography is my hobby. So look for some opportunities for some sexy looking content so that you can put a reel together at the end of your time at LA Film School with some really flashy, glossy looking work.
Yeah, for me, that's right, because I'm just not getting back into the real world.
Yeah. So that's it. That's my stand-up for this week. Shall we, any other questions, Quentin?
No questions, sir.
Okay. Then I move to adjourn.
10-4 on that, sir. I say.
Second the motion. Motion is carried. Gentlemen, have a good evening. And I'll talk to you around the LMS, and hopefully I'll see you next week on another go-to. If you need to reach me in the meantime, you got all my contacts on the syllabus, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good evening. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Y'all take it easy, folks.
Good night.
Night.